Hello, and welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Biweekly Sync. It is October 21st, 2021. I'm your host for this call, Patrick Rodgers, and we will bring you another great call. Here is our agenda for today. Latest updates on the SharePoint Framework. We'll go, of course, across the patterns and practices program updates, new community samples, picture time and together mode, and then we got 3 great demos today from Anoop, Kunj, and Hugo. So at a glance web part and Viva adaptive card extension, share to Teams SPFx Command Set Extension, and an SPFx Design Patterns property pane. So a little bit of a meta discussion there. So I want to get into that. But first, real quick, opportunities. Often we get asked, how can I participate in patterns and practices? I want to be involved. How do I do that? Well, one of the best ways, or one of my favorite ways, is to have folks demo on these calls. Love to have the demos from the community. Please go. There's a link down there in the bottom right corner to request a spot to do a demo. Would love to show off the work you're doing for your customers and for your companies. Sometimes maybe double check it's appropriate to share it publicly. That's just want to make sure that's okay, but love to have those demos. So anything around SPFx, anything around adaptive cards and ACE extensions, as well as anything around any of the PnP offerings, PnP program offerings, and any combination of that stuff. Love to have that. We can't always get you on the immediate next call. Sometimes we're scheduled out a little bit, but we will get you scheduled. Love to have those demos. So please reach out using that form on the slide. As well, contribute on GitHub. You can do so by reporting any issues you find with our stuff. We don't love issues, but we love hearing about them so we can get them fixed. You can also submit pull requests if you have ideas for new functionality, enhancements, or to fix existing issues. Always welcome pull requests. And then you can always help others with issues or questions they might have there in the issues list. If you have a little bit of time and happen to know the answer, that's a great way to help out too. As well, you can always provide feedback to us on these calls. How's our documentation? Where can we help? And of course, positive feedback is okay too. If we're doing something you like, you can always let us know, and perhaps we can do a little bit more of that. Well, how can I find out all the things that the Patterns and Practices program is doing? Well, we've got this giant page of links for you. The first section there is developer videos. Those are going to be videos focused on developer content. So it might be how to do authentication in SPFx. It might be how to build an adaptive card, things like that. Developer scenario focused videos. So link there for those. As well, we have our community videos. Those are going to be recordings of all our calls. So this call, the other biweekly call, our monthly calls, some other one-off calls. I believe the AMA calls, the sharing is caring, not the sharing is caring sessions. Those aren't recorded, but the sharing is caring AMA sessions, I believe, will be up there as well. And then, of course, open source. We've got 4 great organizations: SharePoint, PnP, Office Dev, and Microsoft Graph in GitHub, all of which welcome your feedback, welcome your contributions. And if you're interested in one or more of those areas, go check them out. Go see, ask around. Everybody is very welcoming, and of course would love to have you participate. As well, sample galleries. We've got tons of great samples. So team samples, SPFx web parts, SPFx extensions, Power Platform, list formatting samples, and more. Lots of great samples. It's a really neat way to go see how other folks have solved a problem or an issue you might be encountering in your dev day, and can sort of learn from that. It's a place I always check out when I've got a new project or a new ask from someone to see maybe has somebody else already solved this problem, and how can I learn from that? It's always a neat thing there. But that's a lot of links. They're hard to remember, so do check out aka.ms/m365pnp. That's going to get you the Patterns and Practices landing page with links out to all of our calls and all of this content that I've just talked through. And with that, I want to mention our upcoming Microsoft 365 platform call. This is a new call starting this fall. It's happened 4 or 5 times now at this point, but it is now on Tuesdays. The next one is 26th of October at 8 a.m. Pacific time, and it's a new weekly call. It's Microsoft presenters covering the latest news and updates from the platform. You can get the reoccurrent invite there, aka.ms/m365-dev-call. And this is going to be latest engineering updates, community together mode photo. And then next week, we'll have Kathy Dew talking about getting started with hub associations in SharePoint. That's building the hub of hubs. And then Andrew Esipov doing progressive web apps and beyond. So understanding if you're new to progressive web apps, a little introduction to that, as well as how to start really building great progressive web apps for OneDrive and SharePoint. And then usually we try and have a little bit of time for Q&A, but that can come and go depending on the sessions. So we've got as well, we are in PnP supporting Hacktoberfest 2021. That's this year, in fact. So register today, runs through the month of October. Pull requests can be submitted to any PnP GitHub labeled with Hacktoberfest. And if you see a GitHub, one of our repositories you would like to submit a PR to that isn't labeled, just let us know. Please open an issue and let us know. It's probably an oversight rather than a decision. Submit 4 approved pull requests in the month of October in any time zone. The first 55,000 will receive a T-shirt. It'd be interesting if they excluded a single time zone. That would just be mean. Look for good first issues or help wanted within any of the repositories. And this, of course, not just PnP repositories. This would count for the Microsoft Graph repositories, SharePoint repositories, other places as well. Anywhere tagged with Hacktoberfest. And this is an opt-in for the PnP recognition program, and you'll get a special Hacktoberfest badge from our Credly stuff, which David will talk about here in just a little bit. And with that, I'll hand things over to David to cover Sharing is Caring.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Well, as we mentioned, there are a number of opportunities to get involved in the community, whether that's using the resources or contributing back. But we also know that if you're new in the community or new to some of these areas, the hurdles to do so might prevent you from getting involved. We want to remove those hurdles. Sharing is Caring is a program that's going to provide you hands-on assistance and guidance in a number of the topics you see in the upcoming sessions section. Our newest, of course, Power Platform Samples, first-time contributor, is next week. We are super excited. Sign up for that. And any of the other ones, as Patrick mentioned, they're all inclusive, safe space opportunities. Don't record them, so it's a great opportunity to collaborate, ask questions, and the ever-popular AMAs next week, PnP PowerShell, followed up with CLI and PnPjs in the coming weeks. All free to join, aka.ms/sharing is caring. Now, if we move to the next slide, when you do start getting more involved, we want to celebrate it. We want to recognize it. The PnP recognition program is here to do exactly that. We're partnering with Credly to provide you badges, digital eco-friendly badges that you can assign to your LinkedIn profile that you can share with the community. They will sit right next to your Microsoft certification badges, and we've got more and more coming. Be on the lookout. You saw the Bavarian Parkers out there. We've got the Hacktoberfest badge coming any moment. Super excited with even more achievement levels coming soon. So opt in. We need to know how to connect you to your Credly account. It is free. Again, we cover the cost for that. aka.ms/m365pnp-recognition. Patrick, back to you.
Thanks, Davis. All right, so now SharePoint Framework updates with Vesa.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to the following slide. So quick update in here. Nothing much new from the 2 weeks ago, but I can probably say that now it's a matter of hours, hopefully crossing fingers, that we'll get the 1.13 out. You heard it here first. So hopefully within 2 to 3 hours, 1.13 is out, unless there's a really last minute critical things. We've been testing that super carefully internally, and there have been a public release previews and release candidates also available, and we are pretty confident, or pretty confident sounds really bad. We are super confident that we are good to go forward with that. And that's going to basically provide the general availability for adaptive card extensions for Viva Connection. Now, the Viva Connection hasn't been GA'd. So we need to be super clear on the messaging here. The platform side of the house will GA, hopefully today, now that I'm promising that. And then the actual GA of the Viva Connection will happen a bit later. But you can already start building ACs on top of the dashboards and use the mobile experiences and all of that. There's a lot of other stuff there as well. I want to call out actually support for TypeScript 3.9. We would love to go to 4.x already because it's been already actually a while since the TypeScript 4.x actually was released. But there are underlying platform level dependencies which are blocking us to do so until SharePoint Online, the platform is actually updated on to support TypeScript 4.x. So unfortunately, SharePoint Framework has those dependencies which are a bit delaying always on jumping forward. A lot of other stuff there as well. Let's go to the following slide. Just a quick recap, a lot of stuff coming in the future as well. So we're looking into having a 1.14 quite fast. Most likely it will not happen by end of this calendar year because we're already in the last quarter, but then immediately in early January or late January, 1.14 with additional templates and improvements available as well. And then crossing fingers, it is still the objective to go to the quarterly based release cycle with SharePoint Framework. So there's a high level commitment on that in the engineering side. Trying to get there, haven't been there yet. Throwing it back to you, Patrick.
Thanks, Basin, for those updates. Love to hear the confidence in the new release coming out. It is going to be fantastic. With that, pass things over to Julie for PnPjs Client-Side Library updates.
Release the bunnies. There they are. So we had a release on October 15th. 2.10 came out. There was some documentation updates and a small search query bug fix. The bigger fixes in that was we finally tracked down the fix for the image web parts and setting the banner image in client-side pages. Just want to remind people that is not a first-party supported API. We're sort of reverse engineering those things, and they can break, and that is effectively what happened. So those things are fixed now. So hopefully that should help you out. Again, want to announce V3. There is an early preview available. We're doing nightly builds. And you can get that nightly build by doing an npm install for the @v3 nightly build. If you want to know more about what's happening in V3, you can check out the pinned issue number 1636. It has all the details on what we're doing for V3, so you can check that out. And obviously, there is a changelog in the V3 branch, and that is up to date. So that's going to show you what we've changed, what we've removed, what we've updated, what we've added. All of that is in that changelog. So please check that out. Also, on that pinned issue, 1636 is some getting started for the preview. So if you want us to try out that preview, you can look at the details in 1636 to get the information on how to get started. And as always, please follow us on M365 PnPjs on Twitter and submit all your feedback to the issues list, specifically in our repo, the PnPjs repo. We monitor the issues list, not particularly the discussion list. So if you are looking for feedback from us, please put those in the issues list. And that is all I have. Back to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Julie. Great updates there. And do encourage folks to start to check out V3, give it a try, give us a little bit of feedback. It's not ready, but it's getting closer. So we'd love to hear from folks. Now we got updates on the CLI, which I will cover. New preview v4.1 with retrieving service principals, updating user profile information, many commands upgraded to use the graph v1. So that stuff that was previously pointing to beta has now been able to move to v1, upgrading SPFx projects to the latest release candidate, and improved creating of content types. Commands are there to install the v1 or v4.1, beta, and as well about the release notes there for the V4 stuff. If you're still using the V3 stuff, that's great. It'll keep working, but start thinking about migrating to the V4 when you can. Lots of great fixes, improvements, especially under the hood. Things run a little bit smoother. So excited to see the CLI continue to grow and evolve, and congrats to everybody working on that. And next up is the SPFx Reusable Controls. So React Controls 3.4.0 is releasing today. I will assume that means today. Modern taxonomy picker based on the taxonomy REST API, documentation enhancements, decreasing the bundle size for a lot of things, and various fixes. And then the property controls 3.2.0 will do fast serve support as well as various fixes. Thank you to all of the contributors there on all of those things. It really is fantastic to see these continue to grow as well. And if you're not using them, would encourage you to check them out for your projects. It's a great way to save yourself a lot of time and build in a lot of great out-of-the-box looking functionality without having to put in a lot of work. So you've got the React controls for the body of your web parts, your application customizers, and then the property controls designed to work in the edit pane of your web parts. And with that, we'll move over to Modern Search. ak.ms/PnP Search will get you all the information about the PnP Modern Search web parts. This allows you to build a flexible search experience for your users. V4.0 4.4.0 is out. That's the October release. That's in preview. So you can check that out. Tons of fixes, read the release notes, give feedback, a lot of accessibility updates as well. And then the v3.22.0 is the October release for the v3 branch. And then the v3 branch is in sort of maintenance mode at this point. So as possible, encourage you to look at upgrading to the v4 branch of things. You'll get a lot of nice new functionality, new features. So encourage you to do that as possible. Obviously, we can't all update immediately, every time a new thing comes out. And then finally, SPFx samples with Hugo.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. So we have some samples for you. We've got SPFx extension samples, and we've got web part samples that you can use to learn how to, to do a little pattern or to actually do a full-on solution. These are the latest samples for the last 2 weeks. So we have a new animated progress bar by Ari Gunawan. That's an extension that you can add. And then on the web part side, we have a new emoji reactions by Siddharth Vageja. We have my events where we fixed some dates by Chandani Prajapati. The React org chart has been updated by Tom Daly to actually read users and managers. And we have a new SharePoint News Star Ratings web part by Takashi Shinohara. That's Subarashi des. And then we have React Groups that's actually added Teams tab support with Allison Collins. Finally, we have React Documents Accordion by Joao Mendes. These samples are awesome. We're going to be actually pushing them through the repo very shortly. But I wanted to thank everyone for their contributions. If you want to contribute, you're always welcome to contribute. Again, if you don't know how to contribute, we have Sharing is Caring to help you get started. And speaking of getting you started, let's talk about some samples with getting you started with ACE connections. David?
Thanks, Hugo. As mentioned, we have a new repository for these SPFx adaptive card extensions. So they are open for more contributions. The one most recent is from Zach Roberts on upcoming events. You can see the screenshots there in the image. Very cool, allows you to cycle through your upcoming events and open the event and make some modifications. So very, very cool. Open for contributions, want to see you get involved. We are going to begin a Getting Started with Viva Connection ACEs Sharing is Caring session. So be on the lookout for that. And it's not just how to contribute them, but how to kind of start using them. We'll walk you through some of the initial steps on building them and the like. We want everyone to get involved. It is a bright future for these and would love to see everyone get more involved. Patrick, back to you.
Thank you, Hugo and David, for those updates. Definitely really excited to start seeing the ACE samples start to come in and see what folks are building there. It's going to be a cool new platform. So optional picture time. So go ahead and flip on your video, and I think Vesa will take over here on the thinger.
Yep. Let's wait for 50 people fill in. We're more than 200 again on the call. 225 or so we'll probably get the full in. And I can see a SharePoint monkey again on the crowd. That's always good. I actually, my wife found Yahoo monkey last weekend in the closet. That was pretty weird. But those are rare things from the, I can't remember, SharePoint Conference 2018. I think we're hitting the 50. So let's do some hand waving, everybody. And well, one second. I'm not recording. My bad. Sorry. Doing too many things. Okay, here we go. Some hand waving, everybody. Thanks everybody for joining. Awesome to have you in a call again. Excellent. Have a great rest of the week as well. And we have awesome demos coming up next. Thank you, everybody. Brilliant.
All right. Thank you, everybody there. Thank you, Vesa. And that'll be published out shortly on the interwebs. But now we're up for some demos. So Anoop, if you want to go ahead and start sharing and take it away.
Yes. Yeah. Hello, everyone. So today's demo is on a web part and an ACE sample called as At a Glance. So the plan is I'll go through some slides and then a demo and then some slides again for the code. Right. So just quickly about myself. My name is Anoop Tati. I'm a SharePoint developer at Content and Cloud here in UK. I write blogs under the platform Medium, and that's my link to the blog on anoopt.medium.com, and I'm on Twitter as well, and my GitHub username is AnoopT. Right. Firstly, the idea for this at a glance web part and ACE came from the BBC News app. So in the beta version of the app, what they have is whenever we open a news article at the top, we can see that there's there's a box over here which provides the summary or the first few sentences of the article, and then you can scroll through the first few sentences. So in a way, you get to read the news at a glance before reading the entire news article. So I showed this to one of our clients and asked them if they would want this in SharePoint for the news pages, and they said yes. We went ahead and created the web part, and once we did that, the next thing obviously was to share it on GitHub in the PnP repository, and now I'm doing the demo of the same. Right. So the web part itself, these are a couple of screenshots, but we'll have a look at the web part. So all it does is, on the right side here, we can see it on a page on desktop. As soon as we add this web part, it gets the first 3 sentences of the article and shows the news at a glance. And in mobile view, we have this carousel like the BBC News app, wherein we can click through the dots and then read the news at a glance. And then what we have also done is created an ACE for the same. Say, for example, if we have an important article published by the CEO or some kind of policy that gets published in our organization, and we want that particular article to be visible on the Viva Connections dashboard, then we can use this this ACE sample. And then all we have to do is add this sample and then set the ID of the ID of the news page that we need to display. And then, as you can see, it displays the first few sentences of the news article. And then clicking on the card itself takes you to the news article. So in a way, you're reading the important article at a glance. Right. So what we'll do now is we'll have a quick look at the web part and the ACE card itself, and then go through the code. So if I open the site, so here in my developer dev tenant, I've got a news article. What I'll do is I'll just edit this page and then go ahead and add the at a glance web part. And as you can see, the first thing it does is gets the first 3 sentences of the article and shows it over here. If I edit the web part, I can control the number of sentences that need to be displayed. So, 3 or 4, whatever. And then if we do not want, it to pick up the first 3 sentences, then, we can write our own sentence, if I can spell that correctly. Yeah, and then all the other sentences. So that's the web part. I'll just go ahead and save that. And then if we view it in mobile, so if I just refresh this page, you can see that the web part is here. You can click on the carousel and it goes through the various pages. So that's the web part on the in the desktop view and the mobile view. And then with respect to the ACE itself, so what I have here is a site called as Viva Test, which is the home site in my tenant. And then as you can see, I have created a page called New HR Policy, and the ID of that is 14. So now if I go to the dashboard page, now there are a lot of articles about this dashboard page, how to set it up, etc. I won't go into the details of that, but I've just gone ahead and created the dashboard page. It's basically, it's clicking on this button, and that should do it for you. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and add a card, which is called as at a glance. So the first thing it says is that it needs some setup. So I'll just go ahead and edit it. I'll change the size of it to large, and then as we saw, the article ID was 14, so I'll just go ahead and add that. And then I'll just bring this up at the top. And then preview that. So what it does is it gets that particular news article, and then we can see the first few sentences of the news article, and then in desktop it looks similar basically. Yeah, so that was showing an important news article that we want in the Viva Connections dashboard, either in mobile or desktop. Right. So if I go to the slides again. Now let's walk through the code. All this code is present in GitHub under the SPFx web parts repository and the SPFx ACES repository. So first we'll go through the web part itself. In the web part, we've got this file called as newsclanswebpart.ts. And the first thing that we do here is using SPHTTP client, we get the current page where the web part is in, and then what we do is we get a few details like the title, the panel image URL, and the content of the page itself. The other option is we can use PnPjs to do the same. So what I've done is in the code I've included the this file PnPjs.ts. So instead of using SPHTTP client, you can use PnPjs to get the same details. So once we have all the details of the current page, i.e. the image and the content, what we do is we need to do some cleanup of the content. So we go ahead and remove the HTML tags, and then we remove any coeds, and then what we do is we over here, as you can see, we get that content which is present between full stops. So that's how we get a sentence, but that regular expression can be changed to anything else based on how a sentence is defined. So once we have extracted the sentences from the content, we just populate a local variable and then store all the sentences in that. After that, what we do is in the render method, we use the this.width property of the web part. If it is less than 400, then we render a component called as newsglancesmall, which is in the mobile view. We'll have a look at that component quickly. And then if the width is greater than 400, then we render the desktop view. Right. So in the newsglancesmall component, that is the mobile view, what we have here is an NPM package called React Multi-Carousel. We can either use this or there is a PnP reusable component called as carousel. We can use that one as well. So we import that particular carousel, and then all we do in the render method is just render that carousel by passing all the sentences to that. So that goes ahead and, like you see on the right side, shows all the sentences in the carousel. And with respect to the newsglance large, which is the desktop view of the card, this is very simple. All we do is have a title at the top and then show the image if needed. If it is set in the web part properties to show the article image, we show the image. And after that, we show a nice UL unordered list with some list items. There's some styling around that, and that's about it. So that's the that's how we show the sentences in the mobile view and then in the desktop view. Right. Now that was the web part, and the next one is the ACE for the same. The one thing I recommend is watching this video by Patrick on getting started with Viva connection ACEs. It's a brilliant video. Patrick covers a lot of information on these ACEs, the different types of them, and how we can start working with those. It's a brilliant video. And so using that, I have developed this extension, and then I have this is all available in the repository again. It's the ACES repository that David mentioned earlier. So I won't go through details of each of the file. You can watch the video from Patrick that covers everything in detail. However, in this case, what we have here is the main file, which is the card extension.ts. And again, the first thing that we do is we get the news articles properties like the title, the image, and its content based on the ID of the news article that was set in the properties. And once we have all the details, what we do is we just build a custom object in which we store the content of the article, the image, and then the title of the article. As the reason we store all this in this object is later on we will expand this object to get more details. This is the a method called as load details, which gets called when the ACE itself loads. So what we are doing here is we are creating a custom type called as glance card, which has certain properties like image URL, title, and primary text. This is simple. This is an extension to the out-of-the-box image card extension interface. I think I might be wrong, but I could have used that extension itself. Sorry, that interface itself, but we have just created a custom one. And then firstly, we create an array of this type, and then we push the image URL and the title into that. And then what we do is on line number 163, we go ahead and push the first card. So if I just show it over here, the first card, as you can see, has the primary text as the article title. So we've got the image URL, and then we've got the title, which is at a glance that we have over here. And then the primary text is the title of the article. So that's the card we saw earlier. So basically, in this process, we are building up the content. So we've built up our first card, which has to show the title of the page or the title of the news article, its image, and then the title for the card. And after that, what we do is like we did earlier in the web part, we go into the article content, remove all the HTML tags, remove all the GUIDs, get all this, get the sentences, and then for each of the sentence, we build a new card, and then that card will have the image, and then the title, and then the primary text or the main content of the card will be the sentence itself. So if I bring this up over here, you can see we've got the image and the title at the top, and then the sentence itself. So there'll be one card for each sentence. Yeah. So that was building the content itself. So we've built the title, and then we've built all the sentences that we need to display. Now we need to display these cards. So how do we do that? We've got something called as card views. There are different types of card views, one for the image and the other ones for quick view, etc. Again, Patrick's video explains all the different card views. So what we are doing here is we are using the image card view. And then the first thing we do is if we do not have the data yet, we just show a loading image. That's what is seen over here. And after that, what we do is we return the first card that needs to be shown, which is nothing but the card with the title. And then we have the next and the previous buttons. And all we do here is whenever the next button is clicked, we show the next item in the array. So for example, when we click the next button here, we show the first sentence, and then the second sentence, and the third sentence. And then similarly for the previous button, we just decrease the index, and that will automatically re-render the whole card. Right, so those were the web parts and the ACE cards. So I have the links for them over here. And then I've also included a link for Patrick's video. Just one improvement for this is, I was speaking to Wardek earlier, and he mentioned about Azure Cognitive Services that can be used to get the summary instead of us building the sentence itself. So that can be thought of as well. Right, so that's it from my side. Patrick, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Anoop. Great demo. Really cool to see that. And I'm glad the video was helpful and you enjoyed that. So great stuff. And now we're going to move on to Kunj.
Yeah,
You're ready
thank you,
to go?
Patrick. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I would like to thank PnP team members and the community for giving me this opportunity, sharing my sample. This is very simple extension. So, but I think sometimes small things also are helpful. So today I would be presenting a small sample of type SPFx extension of command set. The main use of this extension is to share site pages, documents, and list items directly from SharePoint to Microsoft Teams. So before we go into the detail, a little bit about myself. My name is Kun Sangani, and I am a technical consultant and a C# Corner MVP. I like to learn and share my knowledge, and I'm very grateful to this great community because everyone is sharing their knowledge. I'm trying to create my own website, so if anyone has any good tips, please do reach out to me on any of these social media handlers or channels. The code for today's extension, you can find it in PnP's SPFx extension repository, and you can even get the glimpse of this extension from pnp.github.io website as well. So driving factor for this extension. So before going into it, I would like to give a shout out to Siddharth Wagashya because he helped me shape this idea. And yeah, so one day I uploaded a document to SharePoint document library, but I wanted to share it to Teams, but there was no direct way. So the only way was to copy the link and paste it in the channel, Microsoft Teams channel. But here was a biggest catch. So I switched my context from SharePoint to Teams. So which is it's not a good user experience, and hence we come up with this extension where you can directly send your links to Microsoft Teams channel with only just a small click. The main feature of this extension is it can directly like you can share your list items, your site pages, and document libraries and folders. So everything, most of the things are covered. So let us go to the demo. So I have deployed this extension in my site collection development environment. So if you do not select any of the item, it does not appear. Once you select it, it appears. And when you click on share to teams, a pop-up appears. So if you are not logged in, it would ask for credentials. But if you are logged in, it would directly give you a window where you can select your channel. So you can select the channel, and if you want, you can even add your additional description like this is for demo, and that's it. When you click on share, it gets shared to the teams. So let us check. Yeah, see, this gets added, and yeah, you do not require to go to Teams or copy the link and paste it in the channel window. So you can even do this for the folders as well. So when you click on this, there's a share to team button, and in the folder you can then just provide and all the documents would be shared inside this folder. So you can get a link and you can directly click on this and navigate to that. Even this works for list items. So currently in list item, we are using display form only, but you can just change it as per your requirement. So you can just select the channel and directly your list item would be open. So this would be helpful if you have any kind of approval process which goes and someone wants to see the list item. Okay, so now going back to the code. So it's a simple SPFx extension of type command set. And the first thing which we come across is the onInit method. So if you see in the onInit method, I have added a function called a share to teams JS load. What it does is it adds a JS file. So this JS file is coming from Microsoft itself. So team is providing share to teams functionality for a third-party website. So what you just need to do is just add this JavaScript file and add few HTML. So just add the script, add few HTML, and there you go. Then you can directly have this button and you can click on it and you can directly share everything. But there are a few things like data-href property is being used. If you have any link which is created dynamically, you need to update this property data-href, and you need to run this method because you are creating it dynamically. So first thing, I'm adding the JavaScript, and then I am creating a div. I'm not displaying this button because we are using this command set to click that. We're using this command set to click that. And so if you see, we are creating a div and we are adding a display is none. We are appending it. And on execute of that particular command set, what we are doing is we are first fetching that particular div which we have created. And we are updating its property called as data-href. We are using a column called as file ref to get the link to that particular item or document. And that's it. Then we are clicking the div, and that is all that is required for the extension. So that's it from my side. Back to you, Patrick.
Awesome stuff. That's very cool. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit and say I don't think that's a smaller demo than anything. That's a great demo, and it's a cool trick. I didn't know about the share to teams functionality, so I learned something this morning, and thank you for that. Really good stuff. So that leaves us with Hugo to bring us home. So Hugo, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. I have to say, I'm not a fan of being the last one demoing after these two awesome demos, but I'll try to do my best. My name is Hugo Bernier. I'm the world's laziest developer. And what we've started to do is a series of sessions around design patterns, around SharePoint Framework. And the ultimate goal is at the end of the season, right, we'll actually have kind of established some best design patterns, both in terms of user experience and coding. But we're also hoping to start going towards, creating ACE cards as well and make that transition easy for everyone. Last time we spoke, we covered performance on asynchronous rendering. That was a bit of a heavier session. This session is going to be a bit lighter. We're going to talk about property panes. So I'm sure everyone knows what a property pane is, but again, these sessions are about making sure that everyone has the same level of knowledge. So the property pane are those things in a web part when you click on the edit properties or edit web part, it pops up this property pane that shows the web part name and then gives you some options, right? It's pretty straightforward. It's very cool, but let's talk about the proper way of using these property panes. And one of the things that we should probably start by pointing out is the property pane itself, when you start a web part, is designed to be 320 pixels wide. And that's not a random number that like Visa picked because he liked that number. It's actually because 320 pixels wide is exactly the ideal resolution or dimension to actually have on a mobile device. So your web part property pane will actually take over the entire mobile device screen if you enter in edit mode, and it's going to render pretty awesome. Of course, if you have a cool Surface Duo like I do, then it's irrelevant. But let's go back to the property pane. Let's talk about the first type of property pane, which is the single pane. So let me switch to my other desktop. There you go. All right. So if you can see my screen now, I have a whole bunch of web parts on the screen. And let's talk about some of these web parts. The first one is kind of the image web part, the out-of-the-box image web part, right? And the out-of-the-box image web part, one thing that you'll notice is if you just drop it in, it gives you a nice placeholder and it says, hey, you need to pick a web part, an image. And if you don't have an image selected, you kind of get the first stage property pane, which says, hey, you need to select something, right? Once you pick an actual image, we'll just pick stock photography here. There we go. I'm suddenly hungry. It actually gives you a different property pane, a second stage property pane, which actually asks you to configure this. So if you want to add text and things like that. So that's one thing to understand, is these property panes can actually be reactive and understand what's going on and react accordingly to that. You got some web parts that are super easy to configure, like the file viewer, right? The one thing they'll say, it'll give you here instructions at the top of the screen, the top of the property pane, to say, this is what I'm expecting you to do. And then it makes it super easy for you to configure. And that's actually a good pattern to follow, is tell your users what you're expecting. Don't just drop them in the middle of something and just, expect them to know exactly what they're supposed to do. The text web part has kind of some advanced property pane here. Notice that it doesn't really tell you what you're expected to do. It just shows you for some formatting options and things like that. We'll come back to that because that's actually another cool design pattern that we can talk about. And the stream video, I've noticed I always have to click a few times before I get it. Stream video, again, gives you some nice instructions at the top. This is what we're expected to do, because it might not be as intuitive for people how to use a stream video. And then it gives you some options, right? So the single property pane is actually very easy to do. By the way, all these sample web parts that I've created are going to be made available in the SPFx repository, in case you're wondering. So the single pane web part here, again, I just created a simple description, and I know I have my gigantic mouse gets in the way here, but I got a description, and then I've just got kind of a simple label, and that's what I'm going to show you the code for. But you'll notice that I have another flavor here, which is just no description with just a simple text, and we'll show you how to do that right now. Cool. So let's talk about some of the code that we're doing, right? So the first thing that you do when you have a property pane in your web part is you kind of need to define a method called getPropertyPaneConfiguration. When people click on that button to edit the web part, this function will get called. And what the function is supposed to do is it's supposed to return a iPropertyPane configuration. And so really what we're doing is we're just doing a return here of stuff. iPropertyPane configuration has a bunch of pages. Now in a single property pane, you'll actually have one page, but that page can actually have a few things. One of the things is the header, right? So the header is basically that text, that helpful text at the top that tells you what to do. And then it'll also give you the option to give some groups. So you have some groups. You return some groups, and those groups, what I've done for this sample is I've actually returned a series of group fields. In this case, I'm only returning a single field, and that's what you saw, where it says this is the field label. Please enter some text, right? That's kind of simple, but let's look at what we got out of that, right? So that was a single pane web part with a description, a field label, and the text. But if I wanted to have no description, I know it's going to sound like a really weird concept, but all you need to do is to hide the description by just not providing it or passing a null value. Why am I saying this? Is as you'll see as we explore some of the out-of-the-box web parts and their property panes, some of them are actually using kind of weird variations of this. And some of you may have kind of navigated through a lot of documentation to try to figure out how to make these configurations. All right. Now let's talk about what if I have a web part like this, right? That has, and this is actually an out-of-the-box web part that I've rewritten to show highlighted content. But look at all the options that are available on this web part. Lots of options. There's got to be a better way to do this. Well, thankfully, there's a law, right? The law is called Hick-Hyman law. Those may or may not be the actual people that, but they're basically a British psychologist. His name is William Edmund Hick and Ray Hyman. And in 1952, they already knew how to write web parts. And what they did is actually they found a relationship between the number of stimuli or choices that were available and a person's reaction time given that stimulus. So specifically what they found is the more choices I have to choose from, the longer it takes for me to make a decision. And so when you bombard your users with too many choices, they have to take the time to interpret all those options, and you're giving them work that they don't want. I like to call that, if you live in the United States, I like to call that the Cheesecake Factory law, because the Cheesecake Factory is a restaurant that has a menu that's probably 72 pages long, and it takes forever for you to make a choice because everything looks good and you want to order everything. So let's talk about a new type of web part, property pane, that is called the accordion web part. And with the accordion web part, what you can do is you can actually just create the same web part, but you can create sections here. And these sections are designed to actually make the choices a lot easier. And yes, I like Louise calls it choice paralysis. So now the question is, well, how many categories do I create? How many choices within each category? Is there a rule? Well, it turns out there is another law, right? Miller's law. And again, this may or may not be the right picture for George Miller. I just Googled it. But George Miller in 1956, he came up with, again, he was really cool. He was writing web parts back then. But he figured out that the number of objects that a person in average can hold in their mind, in their working memory, is about 7. And it's often been called as the magical number of 7 plus or minus 2. Now, a lot of people actually say he meant it as a joke and it's not really the number, but it's actually a good rule of thumb. So in average, if you have 7 choices, what will happen is most people will be able to deal with all those choices, but there's going to be a few people that are not going to be able to make sense of the last 2 choices. They just won't remember those last 2 choices are available. Of course, they'll read it, but they'll have to work harder to know that those choices are there. So giving you a list of 17 fields on one property pane is not going to cut it for you. You can go as high as 9, but keep in mind again that some people are not going to be able to see all the options. And you can go as low as 5 choices. And that's not a hard and fast rule, but it's just kind of a best practice in terms of how to render your information to make sure that people can see. So if you look at the 2 property panes side by side here, you'll see that it's really easy to configure the one on the right because we made the choices easy. Does it have to do with content? Does it have to do with filtering and sorting, or how I'm going to lay out the information? So how do I do that? Well, the only thing that I really need to do is when I'm defining my property pane, I say display groups as accordion equals true. And then instead of having a single group like I had before, I can add more than one group. And then in that group, I can actually say whether I want that group to be collapsed from the start or expanded. And so see here, I have one group, I have another group, and I have a third group. I like to start them as collapsed, but you don't have to. Now, one thing that we have to make clear, though, if you give choices to people, just remember that those choices should make sense. Don't put cryptic choices behind property panes that are collapsed, because people are not going to know, how to make sense and how to pick which one's the right door, right? It's going to be more a game of whack-a-mole. Yes, display group as an accordion is an out-of-the-box parameter, unless I misspelled it right. Okay, so really quickly, because we're trying to cover a lot today, we also have another type of property pane, which is steps. And the steps property panes are kind of a specific thing, because one thing that we want to do is we always want to avoid the types of things where, I have options in one group and they're related to another option in another group. And then if you put the wrong value in one group, then we're telling you, oh, this other group has an issue with this choice you made and stuff like that. It just becomes a nightmare from a user experience perspective. So you can actually use steps, right, where you can say, hey, we're going to start with step 1 where we're going to pick a data source. Step 2, we're going to do this. Step 3, we're going to do this. And we're going to make these choices based on what you've done. So this is where you can guide your users through it. I'll skip the demo for the steps here, but I'm going to show you the one thing that you do again is we continue using, before we had groups, but we defined only one page that we return. In this case, we're actually going to return a whole bunch of pages. This is going to be the first page that's going to have a couple groups. We're going to have a second page that's going to have a whole bunch of other groups. And then we're going to have the third page. And the great thing about that is when you're using pages, again, it will render this in a nice flow-through wizard that you're able to guide your users through. Now, the question is, when should I use a property pane? Because, I've seen a lot of people that will actually use property panes sometimes where it's not ideally the best choice. And one of the things that we want to consider is the concept and user experience of directness. So the more users can directly interact with something, the better it is for them. And here's an example. We're going to go to the web parts again. And we're going to look at the text web part right there, text web part. Imagine if I wanted to actually enter text here, and the only way that I could do it would be through the property pane, right? It would be kind of unnatural for me to actually go in here to edit the text. I want to be able to type the text here, and I want to be able to, if I have advanced functions, then I want to be able to go to the property pane and make those changes. So wherever possible, you want to make sure that the stuff that people will edit will be as direct as possible. Here's another example here. The site's web part, right? We have a title for the web part. A lot of people like to put the title in the property pane, but if you can, just do it here, right? These are the cool things, right, that I want to show, right? Whatever, I can't spell today. That's the most natural experience. Don't force people to go to the property pane because especially in a property pane like this where you have a lot more choices to offer, it might just overwhelm the user. All right, I got one more minute, so we're going to skip some stuff today, but let's talk about what we want to do next. I don't know if you're old enough to remember these Choose Your Own Adventure books, but we've decided to start leaving it up to the audience to vote on what they want to talk about next. Choose Your Own SPFx Adventure. There's 3 choices. We want to talk at our next session about how to handle custom properties, including saving things, but also making properties that can be searched by SharePoint, how to extend property panes, and how to improve performance. Now, don't worry, we're going to cover every one of those. We've got lots of content to cover these, but what we want to know is which one would you like to see next? Which one's the most urgent for you? So we have a form that's available here. I think David's going to be pasted the link. He's already done it. And we have a QR code because we are cool like that. So we're going to open the poll for the next week until next Thursday's community call. And then we'll be presenting what people voted for. That's it for me. Thank you. Back to you, Patrick.
All right. Thank you, Hugo. Let me switch back over to the slides. I want to thank Anoop, Kunj, and Hugo for their great demos today. Thank you to everyone. A reminder, if you'd like to demo, please reach out using the URL on the previous form or on the previous slide. Thank you to everyone for joining us on today's call. Thank you to all our presenters. Recording will be available in about 24 hours on the YouTube channel. We could not make the recordings available through Teams, so they will be available on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter there at Microsoft 365 Dev and M365 PnP. Our next SPFx call is in 2 weeks, at November 4th. Can't believe it's already November. Next M365 General Dev call will be next Thursday at the same time. That's October 28th. All the community calls there, aka.ms/M365PnP for the invites. And of course, there's a lot of other community calls available to you as well. If you have interest in this area around adaptive cards, identity platform, Office add-ins, Power Apps, and so on. Thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll look forward to talking soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.